In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, it's certainly a dilemma. We don't know how much of a dilemma it is, but the headlines from the papers are screaming at us, and the stocks are falling, and people are getting very concerned. How concerned should we be of this something out there, this virus of sorts? And what is it? It's something that we're dealing with right now. And it's certainly an issue, a big problem. But a bigger problem is what I want to talk to you about today, and you may dismiss it as not being a bigger problem, but even the problem of the virus fits in to this problem too. We need a temptation vaccination. We really do. Because the things that we are tempted to do can be accomplished at our own destruction. For temptation does tend to destroy people and nations alike. And so this is a very serious topic today. It's sad, really, that first story that you heard from Genesis, the story about Adam and Eve in the garden and the temptation, so many jokes are centered around that. And very little of that is taken to heart as being very serious admonition for us. And yet, it is very serious. And so many people, when they read that story of Jesus being tempted by the devil, say that's a good story, and I'm glad they put that in there, but Jesus is the Son of God. He wasn't really tempted. Well, I believe he was. But you need to understand the very nature of temptation and how it can really get a grip on us and can tear us down. When we're looking at disease, one of the things that comes to our minds is, where did it come from? What is the nature of this disease? What are we going to do about it in understanding where it came from? And then, how are we going to get rid of it? And then thirdly, what we're going to do to make sure that it doesn't come back. Same thing is true of temptation if we want to handle it right. Where is it coming from? Where? Well, it's coming from the devil, of course. Well, we don't believe that. If we only believed that. Because many of the temptations start out little, just a little thing. Well, yeah, it won't hurt if I go this far, and then it's this far, and then it's this far. And we wonder why it has suddenly grabbed us. We've got to understand, if we're going to deal with it, how to deal with it, and we're going to have to understand what kind of a temptation it is. It's not the temptation like that little boy who was lingering outside the storekeeper's shop, eyeing the fruit out there and exploring maybe a little closer than he should, the apples. And the merchant said to him, "Son, are you thinking about stealing my apples?" And he says, "No, sir, I'm trying not to." And that's us, you know. We're trying. We're trying. Very few times are temptations really, really large. They start out very small. They bring us closer and closer and closer to the realization of what was there all along. And then we're in trouble. And so we give in to the temptation. And we believe that we can handle it. Oh, yes, I can handle this one. And then the next one is a little bit more. How do we deal with it? I don't know. Maybe like the two boyfriend and girlfriends were out there on the front porch. They were kissing. Charlie Campbell, the country comedian, told this story. And she noticed that tears were running down his eyes. And she says, "Oh, my sweetheart." And she started kissing him. "Let me kiss away your tears." After a little bit, he was still crying. She says, "Is there nothing my kisses can do to make you feel better?" And he said, "Well, the problem is allergies, but you can keep trying." Sometimes we want to attack the problem that is sucking us in, but we've got to understand the nature of the problem and what it's doing to us, and how the little bit by little bit sometimes becomes a little bit too much. So, what do we do to get rid of it? We just really discipline ourselves and know that we must be strong. Yeah, that works, didn't it? Some years back, when they were trying to get stagecoach drivers for the hills there in the Rocky Mountains, they were asking for applications. And the applications that came back were from people from the East who said, "Boy, I can really drive a stagecoach. I can come so close to the edge that you wouldn't believe, and I have complete control, even that close to the edge." None of them were hired. The ones that were hired are the ones that said, "I don't want to get anywhere near the edge." That's the only way that we can handle temptation. I'll go this far. Well, I can go this far and it won't hurt. That's the problem. If we ever understood that it's from Satan, we would say, "Okay, I'll back off." But sometimes, understand this, sometimes Satan says, "This is God speaking to you." Would he do that? Better bet he would, and does. And so we have to understand the problem. We have to try to get rid of it, but we try for it not to come back. The only way we can understand how that is done is we can understand that we, as Christians, must avail ourselves of God's Holy Spirit. Because we can't do it on our own. If you try to fight temptation on your own, you're sunk. And that's why so many people fall into temptation. There is no reserve of power. And the power has to come from within us. It is not us, but it is a power given us. Town wanted to bring boats in, and so they took a canal that was very close to a very large river and broke it into the canal and brought that in close to the city, or to the town. And it worked for a while, until some kind of a fungus weed started growing in it, and they put acid there to wipe it out, and it wiped it out, but it came back. They tried other measures, and it wiped it out, but it came back. They said, "Well, we're sunk." Until somebody came up with the idea of planting willow trees along the banks. And the willow trees took the nourishment that all of those weeds would take, and they starved. The only way we can handle Temptation is to starve it. We starve it by never once going there. I mean, never once sliding around the edge because we know we can get close, but we won't go over the side. We need to be understanding on this first Sunday in Lent that pandemics come and go. But our relationship with God should be constant enough to handle something much worse, something that can destroy us if we don't let Him take control. Amen.